Okay, so I have a Scrimba challenge that I wanted to go ahead and record. So we're learning how to create the contents of a page using JSX. And what he wants us to do is create a nav bar in JSX and use the semantic nav element as the parent wrapper. And then inside have an H1 element with the brand name of your website, and then insert an unordered list for the other nav elements inside the UL. So we're going to have 3 UIs for pricing, about, and contact. And he's saying don't worry about styling. So we already started here. I forgot to start recording, but we went ahead and we created our nav bar, and it's returning a div with zebra verse inside of it. So now I'm going to create my main content, which is going to return. And these elements are basically going to be our functions that's going to create or contain elements of HTML. And we're going to go ahead and call these functions inside of our React DOM. So we can go ahead and wrap this in a div and then say we have an unordered list with a list item. And this list item is going to have something called pricing. And we can go ahead and add a class name to it. And this is how you would write class name in React instead of using class. And we'll just say list item. So now we can go ahead and write this 2 more times. And we can go ahead and say about and contact. And then up here, we can go ahead and give this a class name equals to we can say logo. So now at the bottom, if we wanted to create this into an actual page, all we would have to do is go ahead and say React DOM.render. And this render function is going to go ahead and render our JSX that we created from these 2 functions. So we can go ahead and say React DOM.render. And we can pass these in kind of like their HTML elements. So first we need our nav bar. So we kind of write this somewhat like how we would write an HTML element. And then we would go down and then we would have our main content. And we could go ahead and close that. And let me see, do I need that? I think I did need that. And then we can grab the document dot get element by ID, or we can just say query selector, and we can grab our root. So our root, we're grabbing it from our index.html page. So now when we go ahead and we reload this, okay, event container is not a DOM element. We're getting an error, which is good. Let's see what error we're getting. So throw error. Let's see. Target container is not a DOM element. Okay. So I want to compare this to something because maybe I'm doing this wrong. So let's go to our declarative notes here and let's see how we wrote our declarative code. So we have our class name header, get element by ID. It's not that one. So here, when we were learning how to make components, so our component, we made a function nav bar and then we returned this code. Here, we're doing the same thing. We're returning the code. And the way we called it is by, wrapping it in a div. So our JSX has to be wrapped inside of a div. Let's see what we get when this happens. Okay, and then now after this, we require this. Don't need it after that. Or we can add that. Navbar is using incorrect Pascal case for React components. So we can fix this. So that's another thing we did wrong. So navbar needs to be with a capital N and capital B. So components need to be Pascal cased. And I actually didn't know that. But as we can see here, we have our things on our page now. So I don't know if he told us to add a header or a footer, but we can go ahead and do that. So we can create a function called the footer content, and then we can go ahead and return a div with a footer. So footer, and then the footer is gonna go ahead and say, thanks for visiting. And then we can just add our footer in here by saying footer content. And then when we go here, we get our thanks for visiting footer. And we can also give it a class name so that later on we can go ahead and modify this. But this is like a very simple JSX page. And I don't know that real React developers, I think they probably split these off into different files. I'm not entirely sure yet, but this is pretty simple and I am really liking React. Just compared to like vanilla JavaScript, it's not too hard to understand right now. And it's making things go by so much faster. Like I don't have to even open up an HTML page, write HTML, and then grab it with the document.query selector. Like I can just do everything once and it all works together in smaller components. And I think that is just like amazing. It's really cool.